Happy.
National.
Indigenous.
Ppls Day! In this video, we'd like to introduce you to the first Ppls principles of learning.
We would also like to introduce you to 3 Indigenous leaders in our community. Carrie Newman, Carmen Rodriguez, DeFrance, and Patty Christensen.
Learning is embedded in memory, history, and story.
What is your name?
My name is Carrie Newman, and my traditional name is High Elf Kingame.
Learning supports the well-being of the self,
The family,
the community,
the land,
the spirits,
and
the
the
ancestors.
Learning involves patience and time.
What does National Indigenous Peoples Day mean to me? I think when I was young, I remember there would be big festivals downtown at the museum, and it was a chance for me as an artist to bring my artwork out and set up a booth and show people my culture and sell jewelry and prints and carvings and things. And so that's kind of what it was when I was younger. It was an opportunity for me to do my work as an artist. But as I've grown older, it's come to be more about the conversations that people can have about Indigenous people in this country. As I've progressed through my career, I've done different things that are about reconciliation, that are about decolonization or indigenization. And that's kind of what the project here at this school was about, the Oakland's Totem. And I think maybe my answer about what does Indigenous Peoples Day mean to me, it's a chance for me to be able to share with others conversations like the ones that we've had together over the past 2 years, working on this totem, because it means so much when people just learn more about each other's culture, about the way that we see the world, the way that we think about things. And I feel pretty lucky that I got to do that for 2 whole years here.
We feel lucky too.
Learning involves recognizing the consequences of one's actions. Learning involves patience and time.
Welcome to Oakland's, Carmen.
What does National Indigenous Peoples Day mean to you?
Well, thank you for inviting me to share a little bit of perspective and my feeling about this day. It is a day of celebrating, of honoring and respecting Indigenous cultures, of understanding and listening. When I first arrived here in Canada, and in the place that we know as Victoria, but whose original name is Matulia, I learned about the diversity of Indigenous peoples and cultures. I was not aware of that. Coming from Mexico, I was aware of my own heritage and the diversity of Indigenous cultures in Mexico, but not here.
Learning involves recognizing that some knowledge is sacred and only shared with permission and or in certain situations.
And I learned from elders, and I learned from community members and from teachers and from students about their culture, about their ways of knowing and being. And I have participated as much as I can every year in different events, volunteering some of the students with whom I work at the university, and learning about protocol, about ceremony, about culture, about how being in relationship is the strongest bond and the strongest way to engage in community, and how trust and compassion and truth are fundamental to establish long-lasting relationships. Similarly to how reciprocity and how respect work for all of us. Reciprocity is very valuable when establishing relationships with Indigenous people and communities. So it's a day of celebrating, it's a day of honoring, and it's a day of learning.
Learning is holistic, reflective, experiential, and relational.
Who are your Indigenous heroes?
Or heroes.
I think that my first Indigenous hero is my dad, Victor. I grew up watching him carve. He taught me to carve. I grew up watching him teach in the school district, teaching all different students about Indigenous art. And then when I got older, I learned about him going to residential school. And the things that he had to do when he was there, and how he didn't get to see his parents very much. And it really changed the way that I thought of him, or the way that I think of him. And I think that he's a pretty special person. So I would say that my dad is my Indigenous hero.
Very cool. Well, thank you for telling us about National Indigenous Peoples Day.
Gila Kasla.
Learning recognizes the role of Indigenous knowledge.
Do you have any Indigenous heroes? So many?
How much time do we have?
I love your books you always recommend to me.
The books. One of my favorite writers is late Ojibwe writer Richard Wagamis.
Yes,
And
Richard Wagamis.
he has so many teachings in his short stories, and I find those stories a beautiful doorway into conversations around worldview and protocol and ceremony and relationships and forgiveness and hope and love. So he presents his own life story in fiction and in nonfiction in a beautiful way that sometimes can be hard to read, but at the end of the story there's always hope. And I take that as a metaphor for life. Sometimes life is hard, and sometimes confronting challenges or difficult situations can be overwhelming, but I'm one of those people who feels that there's always hope. I love many artists because I think that art is also a beautiful doorway to start conversations at any age with anyone. And I love elders who have taught me how to be and how not to be. And they've always done it with love and with respect for who I am. And I want to try to emulate that with the people with whom I work and the communities whom I serve.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful National First Peoples Indigenous Day.
Thank you. The same to you.
Learning involves generational roles and responsibilities. What is your name?
Patty Christensen.
Where are you from?
My grandmother comes from North Island, from Fort Rupert and Namgis Nation.
Wonderful.
What does National Indigenous Peoples Day mean to you?
It's a day that Canadians can learn and take pride in our history, in the Indigenous peoples that were here first, and start to really learn about it. My grandmother denied her ancestry to the day she passed away, so the fact that we can celebrate today who we are and where our families come from and be proud.
Wonderful.
Learning focuses on connectedness, on relationships, and a sense of place. Who are your Indigenous heroes?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a tough one because there's so many Indigenous heroes. I would say my family, first of all. My great-grandmother who survived residential school and raised her children to be strong individuals. Even Carrie Newman, of course. Role models that I work with in Sauk Nation and Pachita Nation. Any role model, any elder that just is proud to who they are and help educate everyone else around us.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you and happy National Indigenous Peoples Day.
You too.
Thank you.
Recognizing the consequences of one's actions.
Happy National Indigenous Peoples Day!